Hey, what's going on YouTube? Today I'm going to be doing something completely different on my channel here, and this has nothing to do with movies or horror or anything like that. I think horror movies are probably my favorite hobby, but very close second to movies and movie collecting is Mafia memorabilia and Mafia research. I like to kind of think of myself as like an amateur Mafia historian. I really enjoy researching a lot of these stories of how the Mafia came to be and some of the different crime families and some of the different, big players that were in the Mafia. Over the last 5 or 6 years of his life, I got the chance to know Henry Hill, and I got to talk to him quite a bit, and I conversated with him. I got to ask him a lot of questions, had some really good conversations with him, and he sent me a lot of stuff over the years that I'm going to be showing you guys today. And he introduced me to a couple of other gangsters, and I'm going to show you some of the stuff that they sent me as well. They're all reformed now, so there's nothing, crazy about any of this stuff I'm showing. Henry Hill passed away. It will be 4 years ago, this coming up June already, and it seems like it was just yesterday. I mean, I miss Henry Hill. He was a great guy. He used to call me the kid, even though I was in my mid to late 30s when I knew him, when I first met him. Very, very generous guy. One of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. And I'm going to show you some of the things that he sent to me, and I'm going to tell you a little bit of backstory about Henry Hill. And he was in the Martin Scorsese film. Well, his life story was. He was not actually in the movie, but the movie Goodfellas from 1990, starring Ray Liotta as Henry Hill, also had Robert De Niro as Jimmy the Gent Burke. I'm going to tell you about those two guys in this video. And I'm just going to show you some of the things that I have here. Later in Henry's life, he loved to paint. It was kind of his little hobby. And he sent me some stuff. A lot of his paintings were really nice, like this one. Some of them were kind of cartoonish, and some of them were meant to be funny. The very last painting I'm going to show you guys, I asked him to paint a self-portrait of himself. And you guys will get to see what he thought of himself later in his life. It's kind of sad to think about it, but stick around for that last photo. You'll see exactly what I mean. Some of these are really nice, though. I am going to get these framed eventually. I've had these sitting in an envelope in a tote for years now. I just don't have the space, The same thing with my posters, all that Scream Factory stuff. I don't have any room right now, so I just like to keep these in a tote just to keep them protected for the time being. But I thought this was one of his better paintings. This is a really nice one here. Here's one that he sent me. He didn't tell me who it was. He wanted me to guess, and he thought it was funny. I did guess who it was. Can you guys guess who it is? It's supposed to be Howard Stern, which I'm not really a Howard Stern fan, but I do like the painting just because it came from Henry, and he thought it was pretty funny. You can see the New York skyline in the background, the Brooklyn Bridge. And he moved around a lot in his life. He passed away. He lived in California, but he did have very fond memories of New York, and that's where he spent a lot of his life, in New York City. So, and he did spend some time here in Florida, and these were some of the memories that he had in Florida. And this is another nice painting. And he did send me quite a few of these skyline photos. The very first one that he sent me there's a black and white one, or black, white, and gray one. That was the very first one that he sent me, and I went on about how nice it was, and I really liked it. So he sent me like 3 or 4 different ones here with different colors. You'll see. And I was really appreciative of him sending me all this stuff. And you can see that he signed everything. This is the very first one he ever sent me right here. He signed everything, and it's not like his signature is very valuable, because you'll see that he signs literally everything. He was a great guy. I don't have these for his signature, but the memories of knowing him, and that's what means the most to me. So I really like this one right here, and so I told him about it. I kind of went on about how nice it was. So he sent me all kinds of New York skyline photos, and I'm not complaining. That was kind of his wheelhouse, I think. And here's yet another one. And then the one below this, actually, before I show you the self-portrait of him, of what he thought of himself, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about him. I'll show you some other stuff that he sent me here. He first met Jimmy the Gent Burke when Henry Hill was only 12 years old. He used to be a shoeshine boy in New York City, and he used to help deliver pizzas at a local joint there in New York City, just to earn a couple bucks back in the 50s. And he used to shine shoes for some Mafia guys. He, unbeknownst to him, he was shining Jimmy the Gent Burke's shoes. And after about a year of knowing Henry Hill, he kind of took a shining to the kid. There was a 12-year difference. Jimmy the Gent was in his mid-20s. Henry Hill was now 13 by this time. And Jimmy Burke wanted Henry Hill to come and work for him, and he could be a sandwich boy, you know, delivering sandwiches and pouring drinks for the guys when they're having card parties and whatnot. So he did that, and you know, they gave him some pretty decent money compared to shoe shining. You know, he was living pretty good now, and he was starting to get some street cred, and he was just in his early teenage years now. And by the time he reached 16, he started getting into some of the more some of the bigger crimes, I guess. He started stealing credit cards, and then he was using the stolen credit cards, and that's what he got pinched his first time when he was 16 for credit card fraud, theft. And when the police, you know, brought him into the station, they had a feeling that they knew who he was working for, but he kept his mouth shut about it. And the police actually got kind of rough, and they beat him up a little bit, and he still kept his mouth shut. So he earned all kinds of street cred, and he earned a lot of points from his Mafia family, the Lucchese family. And he kind of started to move up the ranks a little bit now, and they had him doing some arson jobs, and he was, you know, burning up some of his competitors, like the restaurants. You know, you gotta realize that in New York in the 50s and 60s, the Mafia pretty much ruled everything, and they would, you know, go to restaurants and tell them that they would protect them for a fee. And some of the people that didn't comply, well, the Mafia kind of bullied them around a little bit. So this is where Henry came in, and he started kind of doing some arson jobs, and then again he got pinched, and you know, he did a little time and he came out, but he never ratted on anybody. And then by the time, it was like in the 70s now, you know, he had been kicking around with the Mafia, with the Lucchese family now for about 20 years. Him and Jimmy Burke did the Lufthansa heist in 1978, and they ended up stealing $6 million from an airliner, and they didn't get caught. And out of that $6 million, they had to pay almost $1 million to the two mob bosses at the time. And after that, Henry Hill started selling drugs, and this is where he started. This was the demise of Henry Hill. By this time, he started selling marijuana, and then he was using his own supply. And then he started getting into some of the heavier drugs like cocaine, heroin, and quaaludes. And then by this time, he was hiring kids under him to be like the mules, the runners. Like he would make deals, and then he'd have the kids run these packages of cocaine or whatever, his sales. These kids were running all over town, you know, making his deals for him. And one of the kids ended up getting pinched, and they ratted on Henry Hill. And so the FBI got involved, and you know, they were more interested in the Lufthansa heist. I'm sorry, that's hard to say, but you know, they were more worried about that $6 million than they were about Henry Hill selling little, you know, 20 sacks of weed or whatever. So they started putting surveillance on him and the Lucchese family, and they started wiretapping everybody. And they started questioning Henry Hill, but he kept his mouth shut. He kept telling them, "Fuck you, you got nothing on me," you know, all this stuff. And he was being a tough guy, but he was playing his role the whole way through until the FBI stepped in and let him listen to some of the wiretaps of some of his family members who were talking about him behind his back. They said that they said Henry Hill is now a junkie. We don't need him anymore. They even had video recordings of some of the Mafia claiming to have a hit on Henry. So that's when Henry wised up, and then he started to sing. And he ended up telling the story about everything, and 50 people went down because of this. 50 of the crime family were convicted and sent to prison because of Henry Hill's testimony. And after that, the FBI gave him clemency, so they gave him a fake ID, and he was in the witness protection program, and they moved him to Washington State with a different name. It was Alex something, I can't remember. He told me at one time. But while he was in witness protection, there was a lot of mafia out to kill him. You know, they just wanted to kill him, and they thought of him as a rat, and he thought of himself as a rat, and he never got over that. And while he was in the witness protection plan, he kept getting arrested, kept getting in trouble. He thought he was invincible at that time, and for a while he was. The FBI and local authorities kind of turned their other cheek when they would hear about him getting in trouble. And eventually, though, it just became too much, and he got kicked out of witness protection, and he had to go back to his own identity. So he was Henry Hill again, and he moved to California, and he spent time between California and New York. And he ended up living his final days in California. And here's the address. He lived in Topanga, California. I still keep in touch with his girlfriend and fiance at the time of his death, Lisa, but he lived in Topanga, California. And there's a signed 8x10 that he sent me. And then this is a really cool photo right here. These are the two other gangsters that he introduced me to. This is Frank the Enforcer Collada. He was in the Chicago Mafia, the original Mafia that Al Capone formed. He's in his late 70s now, and he's reformed, and he does a lot of work with the FBI and stuff like that. And then this is Tony Montana. The real Tony Montana has nothing to do with the Scarface Tony Montana. This guy's name is Tony Montana, and he helped build Vegas in the 50s, 60s. He's a casino owner right now, still to this day, in Las Vegas. And I thought that was a really cool photo to have the three of those guys sign that for me. And Frank Collada and Tony Montana are still alive. Here's another picture of Frank Collada. And here's the skyline. This is the last skyline photo I was going to show you guys. And then I'm going to show you his self-portrait that he made for me. And it's him as a rat. And he was really down on himself. You know, the last few years of his life, he was living out of the bottle pretty much. I think he lived a rough life. He lived to be 69. He died the day after he turned 69. And it was a hard life on him, and he never overcame the fact that he ratted on all of his people and all of his friends. But I do have a couple other things here I'm going to show you guys that he signed for me. These were some coasters that were in a Vegas casino, and like I said, Henry signed everything. He was just a generous guy. There's another different type of a coaster, signed it from Las Vegas. I'm not sure why he signed some of this stuff for me, but he would sign a bunch of stuff. These were some of his cards. There's let's see if you can, wow, I don't know why my camera's not picking that up. You can see on the left here, that's Henry Hill, and that's Ray Liotta. Those two guys became very good friends because of the filming of Goodfellas. They stayed in contact up until Henry's death. And from what I heard, Ray Liotta took it kind of hard when Henry died. Here's some of his cards that he sent me. He sent me some spaghetti sauce one time too. He had actually, this was one of his last business ventures. He had Goodfellas Foods Inc. And he was a really good cook, and he made his own spaghetti sauce. So he sent me some bottles of that. Here he sent me some dice that were, I'm not sure why my phone's not picking that up, but it says dice were used in an actual play at a casino. This was from the Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm not sure which casino this was. The Palace. And I'm not even sure if that is in, he signed them too. You can see that on the top. I'm not sure if that casino is still in business or not. He signed a $100 chip for me. This is from Las Vegas. And those guys signed some money for me. This is actual money. Tony Montana signed a $2 bill, another $2 bill, and a $5 bill. And then Frank Collada signed a $2 bill, another $2 bill, and a $5 bill. And then they just had some COAs. And what else do I have? I have a package of deck of cards that were used in an actual casino. It says that Henry Hill signed. And he signed every card, all 52 cards in here, he signed. And then Frank Collada did the same thing. There's a deck of 52 cards here, and he signed every card. I'm not going to dig them out, but just dig a couple out, I guess. So that's pretty nice. And like I say, you know, due to the fact that they signed everything, the signature is not worth much. It's just the sentimental and the historical value of the stuff to me. I'll show you guys a couple of the envelopes that he sent some stuff in. He used to break balls on my mailman here. You can see that there's my address, and he would send it from his home in Topanga, and then he would write on there, "Postman, do not bend, ovens are hot." So he was trying to break balls on my mailman. And he sent that a couple different times here. Let me see. Here he's got one that says, "Postman, please do not bend, ovens are hot." So that was the kind of sense of humor that Henry Hill had. Let's see, I do have a couple other things here I forgot about. There's a $2 bill signed by Henry Hill. And then here's a fake 50, a big 50 that was signed by Henry, good fella Henry Hill. And I used to have, I don't know where I put it, but I had a little hotel key card that he signed to. I still keep in touch with his girlfriend Lisa, and I was trying to see if she would get a hold of his last driver's license for me. She said she wasn't really, you know, that is kind of weird now that I think about it. She was thinking about it at first, and then she said no. And then here's my favorite thing that I was going to show. This is an ice pick that he signed. And it says, "Good fella Henry Hill," and there's a nice sharp ice pick there. So I'm going to have to put that back in there. I don't want anybody to get poked. So that is my little Henry Hill story and collectibles and stuff that he sent me over the years. So you guys let me know how you liked the video. I wasn't sure if this was something I should put on my channel or not, but it's something I'm proud of, and I just wanted to kind of share the story with you guys and let you see some of the stuff that I got from Henry Hill over the years. And other than that, it's turned out to be a pretty long video, so I better cut it short here, guys. But thanks for watching, and take care.